Hey guys, welcome to our spring squats to trots. So this is a 5-day challenge. Every day will be a little different, but it's going to build on each other. The last day will be on horseback to kind of show you some things to do there. We had a lot of interest in want to help with body position, just overall body position on the horse, so correct alignment. And then helping with a few things like the bouncing and the transitions and things like that. So our first thing that we're going to do is going to be an overall body assessment. This is going to help teach you about your body and teach you where you're maybe out of alignment, and hopefully relate that back to the horse so you can start to realize why I can't pull my leg back or why I'm hinging here, what's going on, and then it gives you something to work on at home to actually help you fix that. So we're gonna just start from the ground up basically. So we're gonna start with our feet all the way up. So I just want you to march in place, not thinking about anything, and then stop. As you stop, I want you to look at your feet. Look at your feet and see how they stopped. Are they straight? Very straight. Are they turned out when you stopped? More in a little duck stance here. Are your toes scrunched together? Are they twisted? What's going on? So if you stopped and your feet are more turned out, or one foot's turned out and the other foot's straight, think about that in the saddle. Why can't I turn my toes in and keep my feet straight? Well, this is your natural alignment of right here. This is how your body's compensating with everything else going on. So as you're here, I want you to take your fingers and you're putting it right on the sides of your ankles. So as you do this, I want you to feel the pressure. So you're squeezing kind of right in the little bulb here and the little divot here. So in those two divots, is there more pressure going into the inside of your thumb? Or can you push it out and raise that arch of your foot, roll your blades out until you get balanced? Okay, separate your toes out. Big toe separated, help yourself out. If you have more pressure on the inside, that means your ankles are rolling in. That happens a lot, but think about what this does in the saddle. If your ankles are rolling in, it automatically makes your knees roll in, right? So that makes you a knee grabber in the saddle, which then throws everything else off. Now you've lost your lower half of your leg, you're tilted forward. I got lots of help here. You're tilted forward in the saddle, you're all over the place. So just this little ankle problem can cause so many issues in the saddle that you're not even aware of. So these are just things that we're noticing and thinking on right now. Okay, so are your ankles rolling in? Now I want you to sit down on the ground, rub your calf, see if there's any really tight areas in your calf. Really press into it. I've got a tight one right here on this calf. If your calves are really tight, it's going to, again, if one muscle's tight, that means another muscle is stretched out. So we're, again, just taking note of all these little things. You can go a little further in this, and you can lay down and we can do a knee assessment. Put your hand just on the top of your knee, and you're going to straighten and bend. You probably already know this already if you're grinding or whatever and enjoying, you probably know that. But as you feel it, see if it's going straight, see if it's catching and you get a pop, not just a grind. So this one's really grinding right here. I'm just bending and straightening. I have my hand on it, see if it catches anywhere, see how it tracks. Okay, so again, how your knee tracks as you walk in daily life is going to affect you on the saddle. In the saddle, you're not just sitting and your feet aren't doing anything. You're more in a standing position. So if already we know we're all over the place, that's how you're naturally going to sit in the saddle. So we want it, once we get in the saddle, for it to be very natural position and not forced. Anytime it's forced, you're going to be tight. Tightness leads to bouncing. So, all right, so we've gone knees. If you're in front of a mirror, take a look at your quads. Look at your quads, see if they are even in size. So we know if one's bigger than the other, just like in your horse, one leg's stronger than the other, it's going to be more helpful, it's going to be tracking better, it's going to be compensating for the weaker one. So we want to take note of these things, balance yourself out. All right, next part, we're going to our hips. So go against a wall. So in your house, go against your wall and stand straight against the wall. Look down at your feet, push your feet back. More than likely, you naturally wanted to stand against the wall with your feet out from the wall, right? So we want to push our feet against the wall, push our hips and our shoulders back, okay? Now, first off, ask yourself how awkward this feels, how hard it is, where it's hurting, where it's tight. Now take your hand, put it behind your back, and how far can you slide your hand between the wall and your back with your feet, your hips, and your shoulders against the wall right here, okay? We only want it up to your wrist. So just naturally, I go a little farther on this. I'm up to about here. So I want you to take your hands, put it in front, and roll your hips. As you stand, if you can only see one finger, I want you rolling until you can at least see two fingers. So that's gonna roll your hips back to neutral and straight. Because more than likely, this happens to most people, is your hips tilt this way. So my hips are tilted this way, which sticks my butt out, tilts it forward, and you get this curve in your back. We want here, where it's tilted underneath you, and you can see your fingers right in front, okay, where it's nice and straight. Catch that feeling. This is where you want to be in the saddle. This position gets you in the what I call catapult position. You're right along, something happens, you're ready for launch, because you're tilted forward, your feet are gonna swing back, and you're gonna go off. It also makes you very unsteady when you're doing your transitions, because you're already here, so your core is kind of stretched out, it's not engaged. So it's stretched out, your lower back is hurting, it's taking all the abrupt force from you. All right, so now as you're here, I want you to roll your hips, feet hip width apart, fix your feet. So if you need to roll your ankles a little bit so you're nice and straight. Fix your hips so you're pressing your lower back more into the tree or into your wall, whatever you're using. Get your shoulders back. So now my shoulders naturally want to roll forward. So as I pull back, my lower back wants to give instead. So I got to force my hips to stay in order to get my shoulders back. All right. Now I want you to get your head against the wall, pull it back, and see where your line of sight is. Are you looking up? Is your chin tucked? Where is your head up? Where is your line of sight here? All right. So if you're in the saddle, our golden position is shoulders, hips, heels. If you can't even stand against a wall or anything with shoulders, hips, heels in your correct alignment without feeling some kind of pressure, how hard is that going to be on a moving object? So this is something to take note, something to figure out what my body is doing. So did you have a really big curve in your back? Was it hard to get your shoulders against the wall without your back coming off against the wall? Are your ankles really rolling in? Everything is connected. So if you have one, you're going to have some of these other issues. It just may not be as noticeable. So always making sure you're using your whole foot. Toes are spread, ankles are in the correct position, making sure you're not rolling in. Get those ankles out. If they're rolling in, this is all pulling, this is all stretched out. All right, so we want to make sure we're always in correct alignment. This is a big one in the saddle. We don't want this to naturally happen. We want to sit here with our hips underneath us. So that's your just quick little assessment, just to give you a clue about what's going on in your body, where you're at right now. So what we're going to do through this week will start to make sense. Some things might seem really easy and you're like, this is stupid, I don't need to do that. Well, if you did just the quick little assessment that we did, hopefully you started to realize, oh, this is out. This is not quite right. This is out of alignment. This might explain why I'm having a hard time there. If you're naturally here and your back wants to give here, it's going to be really hard for you to get your hips, your legs pulled back. So they're gonna wanna go forward. You're either gonna be propped here, or you're gonna be sitting in the saddle like it's a seat, and your feet are gonna be more up here. That's what's gonna be so tight, is your hip flexors, along with your core stretched out, your lower back tight right here, shoulders stretched out, lots of different things taking effect. So if you have it, I have my foam roller. I have a couple different size balls too. I have a golf ball and a massage ball. You can use a lacrosse ball, softball, whatever. These are really good things. So your body is connected with fascia. Everything is overlaid with this layer of fascia, which just protects you, and it also keeps you in position. But what happens when your skeletal system starts to get out of alignment, so your hips are out of alignment here, so they're naturally tilted forward just on the daily regular right here, that's gonna make all this fascia stretched out, but it's tight, but it's stretched out, and then this fascia tightens up. So again, it's tight, but now it's short. So we want to lengthen and work out, certain areas, and we want to relax other areas so everything can get back in position. So that's goal number one, is to relax all the fascia, so then we can go to the muscles, which will then affect your skeletal system. All right, so you can start with either of your balls if you have it. If you don't have any kind of small ball around your house, you can use your hands as a self-massage. I do like to do this one sitting in a chair most often. It's nice to just do as you're sitting at work on your computer. You can roll your feet out. You can do it on the couch as you're watching TV. It's just something really simple, and it feels really good. If you have plantar fasciitis, where your heel starts to hurt a lot, this will really help. But as we talked about your ankle rolling in, how that can affect your knee and everything else, we want to relax that fascia out. So all you're going to do is just roll up and down. As you foam roll, you don't want to stay in a place for very long. Think about 10-15 seconds before you take it off. So you don't want to stay in one area very long. I'm already switching feet. You can go back and forth. You can do it multiple times a day, but you don't want to foam roll or hold a stretch for too long, because then what's going to happen, this fascia is in protective mode. It protects your body. So if it gets too stretched out too quick, it's going to go, oh my gosh, I got to stretch, I got to tighten up even harder, and it's going to tighten up even harder on you. That's when you'll get really bad cramps or something like that. So you just want to do little bits at a time. I'm going back to the other side and just roll back and forth right here. So we're just loosening up the fascia that's around those arches of your feet. So your feet, even though your feet are in stirrups and you're like, well, I don't really use my feet when I ride, you actually do. They're the base of everything. If your toes are turned out, if your knees, it's going to cause other issues like your knees rolling in. If you don't have the flexibility in your ankle to get your heels down in the first place, you're not going to be set up to use the correct muscles later on. So again, some of these might seem really silly and I don't need them, but everybody needs them. I use them on the regular. Even if you're a hardcore rider, this is going to keep you in the correct position without getting too sore later on. All right, got my helper again. All right, now we're going to go down to the ground and we're going to work on our calf. So again, you can just use your hand and hand massage, anything to help kind of break that up. You can use your foam roller. This is my 2-year-old thoroughbred. Yes.
Oh, baby, Bill.
All right. So you can put your foam roller under your calves. Don't knock us over. Bill. All right. Put your foam roller under your calves and roll back and forth. If you find a spot that it's really, you feel it, hold it there and roll again. The foam roller is good for general areas. It gets a broad spectrum area. Your hands, the ball, things like that will really pinpoint it. So that's when you really just hold it and release. Press and hold.
I need
So you roll back and forth. So it's just under my calves. I'm just staying in the places it hurts the most. You can see my toes do all sorts of weird stuff. But again, so I hit a spot in my calf and my toes start to curl, which means, again, it's all connected. Alrighty. If you need a little extra, you can do one at a time. So I can press off of this foot. Bill's gonna try to knock us over. I'm pressing off of this foot, which takes a little weight. Hey. Which takes weight off of the foam roller. And then you can roll it around on each side. And again, this is something you can do multiple times through the day while you're watching TV. All right, now I'm gonna take my foam roller and I'm gonna move it up to my butt. As you foam roll, keep your hips in. So we already talked about not letting your hips fall out in the back. Keep your hips underneath you. And we're rolling here. And again, you can go onto one side and roll. And then you can switch to the other side, so you're getting a little more of the outside of your butt cheek. Again, if you don't have a foam roller, I would suggest investing in one. They're not that expensive. They're easy to store. But you can always use your hands, use a self-massage device, things like that. So we got our butt. Now we are going to cross one leg. So we're going to cross one leg, get your other leg out in front. And now we're going to roll a little bit here. This is getting our piriformis muscle and the glute med on the side. If you guys have a lot of sciatic pain, the nerve pain that shoots down, kind of your back towards that back leg, down your butt cheek, that comes from usually a weak glute muscle. So your piriformis muscle, I'm switching to the other side, takes over a little more, and it's a much smaller muscle. It's not supposed to take the workload of the big gluteus maximus muscle. So when that happens, the piriformis kind of swells a little bit. It gets a little more blood filled, and it swells and it pushes right on that sciatic nerve, and that's what will cause that sciatic pain shooting down your leg. So if we can continuously roll that piriformis and we can build up our gluteus maximus to help us, it'll start to right itself. All right, so again, you can just press into your muscles if you need to. If you don't have your roller, press into it, dig your thumbs into it. Don't be afraid to really push hard and feel everything. All right, now we're gonna get our quads. So all you're gonna go is onto your elbows or wherever you need to be, and I want you to keep your hips rolled underneath you. Don't let your back give. Press your hips down. And all I'm doing is walking forward and walking back. So I'm growing right up to my pelvis and then right down to my knees. Again, roll around from side to side. Get your whole quad. See if anything's tight. If you do have the tilted hips, depending to what extreme, if you sit a lot, that is going to stretch out your quads, and it's going to stretch out your glutes and your hamstrings, because you're here. They're naturally stretched out all day long, and it's going to shorten up your quads. So we want to make sure we get those rolled. All right, we are going to do just a little bit of our upper back, because sometimes this is really rolled out, so we want to roll that the opposite way. As we do this, we're going to put it right between our shoulder blades. I'm going to roll my hips, so I'm not going to let my lower back do the work. I'm going to roll my hips so my upper back actually has to stretch up. I'm just rolling. Hold your hair out of the way. It'll get caught. Any little give. I do this one a lot. My shoulders get really tight. That's where I hold a lot of stress. Know your body. Know where you start to hold stress. I can usually see it in my riders when I give lessons right away, exactly where they hold it. Some are up here and they start to pinch their shoulders up. Some roll in here and they go hold their stress here. Some just really brace and get really tight just all over their body. So know your body, know where you're going to tighten up. So now we've kind of foam rolled a little bit of our major stuff. This challenge, I'm going to focus mostly on the lower body, just to help show you and teach you how to use that for your absorption as you're in the saddle. Now we're going to do just a little stretch. As we stretch, we're not doing anything major. We're doing things to keep you in alignment and stretch out correctly. So as you're here, get everything nice and straight. Fix your hips, shoulders back, hips straight. Fix the arches of your feet, and then step a foot back. As you step back, make sure you didn't step back and turn your foot out. So nice and straight, and press into that calf. Now, depending on how flexible your calves are, you might need to bend that back knee. I have to bend my back knee in order to really feel where I want to in the stretch. And then you can straighten it and bend it again. But think about when you're in the saddle. You should be absorbing the shock of the horse's stride or trot or whatever you're doing from your foot, from your heel. So your heel should be giving, your calf should be giving and absorbing, all your legs all the way up. So if you're just sitting in the saddle, it's going to be your spine and your butt is going to take it. We want our whole body to absorb. So we need everything stretched out. Okay, just another couple seconds. Same with your stretch as we did with the foam rolling. Don't hold it for too long because your body will go into shock mode. As soon as you come out of it, it'll go, oh no, and try to tighten up even more. We want to loosen it up little by little. So if you just do them throughout the day, you can do this one easily wherever you are and whatever type of attire you're wearing. And come out of it, go back in it for a second. All right, we're gonna go hamstring. I'm gonna go 1 foot bent, 1 foot straight, kick it out here. We can stretch different muscles several different ways. So knowing your body and knowing where you're tight that day will help you know what stretch you need to do. Every day is gonna feel a little bit different. Point your toe. Flex your toe, point and flex. Switch it, so straighten your other foot, bend your other knee right here. And again, don't give in your lower back, keep your hips underneath you and stretch down. How far you go down is just depending on how flexible you are. So we don't necessarily want to stretch the hamstrings out a lot because more than likely they're overstretched. We want to get them stretching in the correct ways. So we want them not to be in a chair stretched out where they're stretching out here. We want to be stretching them out straight. So you can also do this one standing where you get your hips back. Don't let your lower back arch. And you can kind of feel that one behind the knees, depending on where you need to feel it. Next, we're going to stretch our quads. So hold on to something. Get your stabilizing foot, toes spread, arches raised so you're not falling in. Fix your hips, and if you can, grab your toes. If you can't, you can use a towel to hold the back, but don't let your back arch. Keep it tucked. Keep your knees together. Don't let that knee come out. If this is still too much, go onto your side. And this is easier to get your towel around your foot if you need to, or you can stretch it here. But again, don't let it give in your lower back. You got to keep that hip in. So keep holding that stretch and switch. Fix your hips, fix your foot, get yourself in alignment before you move. So it's just being cautious and conscious of everything you do, every time you move, knowing what your body is doing, knowing how it's compensating. That's going to make the world of difference once you're in the saddle. And once you get it to move more naturally in the correct alignment, once you get in the saddle, it'll be a lot easier to actually absorb the bounce correctly. All right, we're gonna go hip flexors now. So I suggest putting a towel on the floor for your knee. As you're here, make sure your hips are square. My front foot is flat on the floor. My toes are down in the back. And now I'm going to push my hips forward. So it's not a big move, but you should feel that straight down. Pushing my hips into this. If this hurts your knee to sit on the ground, you can do it standing just like we did for our calf stretch. But this time you're going to push that hip forward, making sure everything's nice and straight, but you're pushing the hips forward more than driving the heel down. I feel it a little more when I'm here. Again, standing or kneeling, you're going to feel it in different spots. All right. When you're ready, switch it over. Foot straight, toes spread, arch raised. Press your hips. Now make sure your hips are still square and your shoulders are back, and press in. As you do this more and more, you can also think about drawing this foot back as you're doing it. So you're not just driving by this butt cheek, you're actually pulling back here. So it's that counter pull and push. Right there. So it's not something you can really see, but it's something you can feel. So you can think about squeezing this butt cheek that's on the ground and then pulling this heel back to you, trying to, but not letting it slide across the ground. All right. Now, if you're in this position a lot, so not only are your hip flexors getting tight here, your butt stretched out, but these little muscles of your back are now tight because they're right here, as opposed to stretching out when your hips go underneath you. So we want to stretch those out as well. So this one's just a really nice one. You're just laying down, pulling your knees to your chest and letting it stretch all the way down. You can roll back and forth. You can let it out, come back in. Alrighty. Now we are going to go, we did this on the foam roller, but now we're just going to focus a little more here. I'm going to do this one on my back. So I want lying down, hips square. I'm putting my right foot over my left and I'm crossing it right here. So my knee is pushed down. So I look like a 4, an upside down 4. Now if you can, you're going to reach through the hole and grab your opposite leg. So I'm grabbing my left leg, right leg is bent, and I'm pulling it in. As you do this, you want to stay as square as possible. This is another good one you can do on the wall. It'll help you stay a little more square. So you can press the one foot in and press it down, but you can try to keep your hips a little square here. And switch. So don't let one hip raise over the other. Remember to breathe. So just like we do everything else, I'll show you on the ground again. Keep breathing. The moment you hold your breath through something, muscles tighten up. So if you take a good deep breath, muscles relax. I make my students do this all the time. You can start to see them tense up for whatever reason. Sometimes they're just bracing for impact. Sometimes it's nerves or whatever. But the moment you forcibly make them take a breath, big inhale, big exhale, you can just see that all relax and everything fall into place. All right, last one is we're going to focus on our uppers again. So just that upper back. As you do this, fix your stance. Get your toes spread apart. Raise the arch of your foot. have even weight distribution. You have 5 toes, most people do. Let's use them. Hips underneath you, rolled. Now all you're gonna do is you're going to pull that upper back here. So everything else is nice and straight. My hips are tucked. I'm making my shoulders come back and down. So don't let it hold up here. Drop them down, feel it drop. Down. Right there. Come out of it. Get everything back in. Fix your hips. And go. The moment my upper back wants to come back, my lower back wants to do it for. So I have to really think about getting my hips underneath me before I do anything with my upper back. But just that little reminder saves a lot of things. All right, shake it out. So that is it for today. Hope you guys learned a little bit more about your body. Throughout the rest of the week, it will get a little more intense. We're gonna use our loops where we actually start strengthening. So we'll still add a few little stretches, but we're gonna work on strengthening the correct muscles and teaching them how to absorb the shock. So it's not just the hard part, it's actually absorbing the shock and holding you into it. So allowing your muscles to learn that and use that, and letting your mind connect to it where you're actually knowing what you're doing so you can fix it once you get into a moving animal. So I will see you guys tomorrow, and foam roll as much as you want, stretch as much as you want, just little bits at a time. 15 seconds max at a time before you switch to another area. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.